What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Last night, I guess we had some action, and I don't want to pretend to be the foreign policy expert, but I do want to kind of look at these statements we have, keep you guys updated, because obviously this is going to be the new conversation. So if we were wondering about whether or not we're going to talk about Medicare for all finally, or the issues that people are identifying with UBI, or the VAT, or whatever, it doesn't matter, because right now the entire conversation is about to shift foreign policy. I'm going to just go to the actual statement from, I guess it's the Department of Defense. The direction of the U.S. President, the U.S. military has taken decisive defensive action to protect U.S. personnel abroad by killing Qassem Soleimani, the head of Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Quds Force, a U.S. designated foreign terrorist organization. General Soleimani was actively developing plans to attack American diplomats and service members in Iraq and throughout the region. General Soleimani and his Quds Force were responsible for the deaths of hundreds of Americans and coalition service members and the wounding of thousands more. He had orchestrated attacks on coalition bases in Iraq over the last several months, including the attack on December 27th, culminating in the death and wounding of additional American and Iraqi personnel. General Soleimani also approved the attacks on the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad that took place this week. This strike was aimed at deterring future Iranian attack plans. The United States will continue to take all necessary action to protect our people and our interests wherever they are around the world. So now this is like I said, this is going to completely shift the conversation. Some people are not happy that Trump may have taken action without the approval of Congress, and Iran is like, this is an act of war. He's considered the second most powerful person in Iran, and again, way above my pay grade, but I do know this is going to change the conversation, and that's kind of why I want to look at Andrew Yang's response to this, because this is about being a leader. This is about being presidential. The most common criticisms of Andrew Yang was that he's not prepared for foreign policy. Military action always does something for a president, right? This is a great way to kind of ensure that you'll be reelected, you know, get into a foreign conflict. People really don't like changing presidents in that particular moment. Joe Biden, I forgot about Uncle Joe, Six-Pack Joe, as I like to call him around here. Good old Six-Pack's talking about, our world has been set on edge by an erratic, unstable, and dangerously incompetent commander-in-chief. The stakes could not be higher. Every day that Donald Trump directs American national security is a dangerous day for the United States and the world. Joe Biden says, no American will mourn Qassem Soleimani's passing. He deserves to be brought to justice for his crimes against American troops and thousands of innocents through the region. He supported terror and sowed chaos. None of that negates the fact that this is a hugely escalatory move in an already dangerous region. The administration statement says that its goal is to deter future attacks by Iran, but this action almost certainly will have the opposite effect. President Trump will just toss a stick of dynamite into a tinderbox, and he owes the American people an explanation of the strategy and plan to keep safe our troops and embassy personnel, our people and our interests, both here and at home and abroad, and our partners through the region and beyond. I am not privy to the intelligence, and too much remains unknown, but Iran will surely respond. We could be on the brink of a major conflict across the Middle East. I hope the administration has thought through the second and third order consequences of the path they have chosen, but I fear this administration has not demonstrated at any turn the discipline or long-term vision necessary, and the stakes could not be higher. You know what? Props, man. This is a very, I didn't know about this statement when I started this video, but this may actually end up being the best statement. Best statement doesn't mean it's the one I agree with. I think it's the best statement, and it's probably the safest. He basically just directs all the pressure back at Trump and the administration. He doesn't really say what his personal stance is, and he's pointing out what the administration's goal was, is they wanted to limit conflict, but he doesn't really give you any of his own thoughts. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm looking for somebody who, they might not give the best statement because they're going to have to choose a position. He didn't give us a position. He just kind of pointed at somebody else. It's always easy to be that guy to just sit in the back and be like, you know what, that's wrong, you should have done it that way. But wait, let me quote my girl Kay Harris. Leaders have to lead. This is not leading. Good statement, but he's not leading. So let's go to Pete Buttigieg, The top priority of a commander-in-chief must be to protect Americans and our national security interests. There is no question that Qassem Soleimani was a threat to that safety and security, and that he masterminded threats and attacks on Americans and our allies, leading to the hundreds of deaths. But there are serious questions about how this decision was made and whether we are prepared for the consequences. As a former military intelligence officer on the ground of Afghanistan, I was trained to ask the hard questions before acting. A commander-in-chief must do the same. Before engaging in military action that could destabilize an entire region, we must take a strategic, deliberate approach that includes consultation with Congress, our allies, and stakeholders in the Middle East. The unlawful constitutional role of Congress in matters of war and peace must be respected, and the American people deserve answers on how we arrived at this point, the national security infrastructure we have in place, and the basis for this decision. Now we must deal with the consequences of this action, beginning with the immediate and very real dangers to American citizens in and out of uniform in the Middle East. We must prepare for the impact of regional stability, complex forms of retaliation, and the potential for escalation into war. As we learn more in the coming days and weeks, the one thing is clear: this must not be the start of another endless war. We must act wisely and deliberately, not capriciously through Twitter. The consequences are grave, as anyone who has served in uniform understands all too well. Damn, this man is a beast. All right, he just sounds like he's running for president. Again, this is like literally Joe Biden's statement again, except for he pumps himself up a little bit. Hey, I've been on the ground in Afghanistan. I'm a former intelligence officer. Throws a little slight jab at Trump with the Twitter comment. Good stuff. This is really a strong statement. But again, he doesn't take a position. He doesn't say this is what he agrees with. He doesn't say this is what we should do. This is what we shouldn't do. And again, right now, we really don't even have all the information. This is really all I can do at this point. We don't know. I give Bernie his props on not supporting the Iraq war, because it's hard to say something in the moment that might not be the popular opinion, but that's what leadership is. Leadership is saying something that people may not agree with. It's making a position regardless, and that's what I'm looking for from anybody. Series of tweets, of course. All the other ones were on nice parchment, letterhead, kept it official. Yang goes straight to Twitter. War with Iran is the last thing we need and is not the will of the American people. We should be acting to de-escalate tensions and protect our people in the region. I've signed a pledge to end the forever wars. We have been in constant state of armed conflict for 19 years at a disastrous cost to both our people and our resources. This must end. Our Constitution says that it is the power of Congress to declare war. I would repeal the AUMF and restore the historical imbalance between Congress and executive branch concerning military action. The priority now has to be protecting our embassies, bases, and personnel in the region and hardening our defenses. We must ensure that Americans do not pay a terrible price for this attack. This decision highlights the need to get Donald Trump out of office. We need better decision-making in the White House that does not escalate violence, but instead invest in diplomacy to achieve our national interests. There is a big difference in this statement compared to the other two, and that is making a choice. He's chosen a position. He has no interest whatsoever in a foreign conflict. The others are simply looking at Trump's faults. And again, it's easy to find flaws in someone else's decision when you don't have to make one yourself. But we need a leader. And for people who have questioned Andrew Yang's leadership, this is one of the few opportunities we really got to see that. Being the first one to actually take a position, I think it's a bold move, but it's a necessary move. I want to know what your position is. Do you support the action or do you not support the action? And from what I'm reading here, Andrew Yang has no interest whatsoever in the foreign conflict with Iran, and he prefers diplomacy. And that's not what we have right now. So we'll have to see how this whole thing shakes out. I mean, it's really going to come down to how the American people feel about all this. And I don't know if we're ever going to get that confirmation. I wanted to look at the responses, and we only have a couple of responses right now. We have nothing from Elizabeth Warren, nothing from Tulsi, which surprisingly, figured she'd be all over this. Pete is using this as an opportunity to remind everybody that he actually served. Biden is, towing the line, man. It looks good. He's attacking Trump. I mean, that's a good strategy for as far as election goes, but as far as leadership, the only person who's actually showing leadership is Andrew Yang. Gives us an idea as to the way these people think and what they would do in a conflict in their actual administration.